Greetings, Naked News Guy here, and today I want to talk about my 35th political position, which is ending the BLM. Now, the BLM, the Bureau of Land Management, is the federal entity that owns most of the land, particularly in western states. Now, a lot of the land it does own is desert, it's mountains, it's things that are hard to farm. That's why the land was never settled. But the reality is this, okay? The BLM owns this land and is supposed to manage it, but in many cases, all they do is collect fees. That's all they do. And the land just sits there. Here's the reality, okay? It was never intended for the federal government to permanently own massive amounts of land in this country. You know, the idea was that land would eventually be sold, it would be developed, it would be put to use. Now, I do understand we do need to protect some species. You know, some of this land really isn't quote-unquote usable. But that said, the BLM needs to eventually be eliminated. And we need to encourage the sale of this land, the responsible use of this land. There's no reason that we have certain states, I think Utah, for example, where over 90% of the land in that state is owned by the federal government. So the BLM needs to be dissolved, and the way it needs to be dissolved is they need to go through this land, and they need to decide they're going to do one of three things with the land. They're either A, going to turn it into a national park, B, they're going to transfer it to the state that the land is in, okay? Every state should own the majority of land in their own state, that's public land, or C, they need to transfer the land to Native American reservations, one of the three. The BLM should not be the largest landowner in the United States. You know, they should not be managing the land by letting large farmers, plantation owners, use the land or, you know, doing whatever they're doing on the land. I'm not stupid. You're not stupid either. We know a lot of the stuff that the federal government does that they don't want to talk about is done on BLM land because there's no way to see what they're doing. You know, I'm not going to say where it is, but I remember driving in Utah in a certain area, and you see obviously what is obviously an incinerator out on BLM land. Again, I won't say where I saw this because, you know, I don't need any people showing up in black SUVs to have a talk with me. But that's bullshit. The BLM needs to be ended. Like I said, the land needs to be transferred to the states, or it needs to be sold to private people, or whatever. If you can't use it for anything else, if, you know, whatever reason it's excess, then give it back to, you know, the Native Americans in that area so they can use it. The BLM should not exist in this modern day and time. Naked News Guy here. Like and subscribe for more content.